Princess Charlotte steals the spotlight at the royal family's Christmas service. The royal family was preparing for one of the most anticipated events of the year, the annual Christmas service at Sandringham. It was a tradition that had been passed down for generations, a moment when the family gathered to celebrate the holiday together. The air was filled with excitement, not just within the royal household, but across the entire nation. It wasn't just a church service, it was a spectacle. Cameras from all over the world would focus on them, and every royal appearance would be analyzed and discussed in the media. But beyond the glitz and glamour, there was a deeper significance to this service. For Princess Charlotte, it was a day like no other. Although only a young child, she had grown accustomed to the royal way of life. She had attended events with her family before, but this year felt different. She was older now, and as her family made their way through the hustle and bustle of the royal preparations, there was a certain energy in the air. It was clear that Princess Charlotte was beginning to carve out her own place in the royal spotlight. Though still young, her presence was becoming more and more undeniable. The royal family's home at Sandringham, with its grand architecture and manicured gardens, was a sight to behold. The estate had always been a place where the royals could escape the formalities of their royal duties and enjoy some time as a family. On Christmas Day, it transformed into a setting that was both intimate and public at the same time. The family would attend a morning church service at St. Mary Magdalene Church, a short walk from the estate. It was one of the few times in the year when the family could be seen in such a public, yet personal setting. As the royals prepared for the service, everything was carefully arranged. The staff worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that every detail, from the decor to the attire, was perfect. Princess Charlotte's outfit was carefully chosen, as were her brothers, Prince George and Prince Louis. Each of them was expected to adhere to the royal standards of dress, looking elegant and poised. But for Charlotte, there was an added sense of excitement this year. As the youngest daughter of Prince William and Kate Middleton, she was already becoming a favorite among royal fans. Her charm, coupled with her growing personality, had the media paying closer attention to her than ever before. The service was set to be a grand occasion, with members of the royal family arriving in style. Prince William and Kate, dressed in their usual royal attire, made their way to the church with their children in tow. As the family walked toward the church, the crowds gathered to catch a glimpse of them. The media, positioned in their usual spots, were ready to snap photos of the royal family, eager to capture the moment for their audiences. The royal children, with their wide eyes and fresh faces, were often the ones who captured the most attention. Princess Charlotte, being the youngest girl in the family, had always had a special connection with the public. But this year, something was different. It wasn't just her cute smile or adorable outfit that caught everyone's eye. It was her presence, her natural ability to be the center of attention without even trying. As they approached the church, the royal family paused for a moment, greeting the crowds and acknowledging the well-wishers. There was a sense of calmness and grace that surrounded them, but also an awareness of the intense spotlight they were under. The service was not just a family tradition. It was an event watched by millions around the world. Yet, despite the grandiosity of the occasion, there was something remarkably grounded about this family. They were, after all, still a family. Princess Charlotte's role in this event, though subtle, was growing more significant. In the past, she had been a cute little girl who occasionally made an appearance with her family. But now, at the age of 7, she was becoming more independent, more confident. She walked beside her parents with ease, her tiny hand clasped in her mother's, as they made their way to the church doors. It was moments like these, where the camera flashes flickered around them, that Charlotte seemed to shine the brightest. She may have been young, but her personality was starting to take shape, and it was clear to everyone around her that she was no ordinary royal child. As they entered the church, the family took their seats in the pews. The church, with its towering stained glass windows and beautiful floral arrangements, created the perfect backdrop for such an important event. The service began with the usual hymns and prayers, and the royal family sat attentively, dressed in their finest attire. But even amidst the reverence of the service, Charlotte seemed to bring a lightness to the room. Whether it was her little giggle or her curious glances around, her presence was felt. She wasn't just another member of the royal family attending a Christmas service. She was a young girl, full of life, taking in the world around her in a way that was both innocent and captivating. As the service continued, the eyes of the congregation and the media occasionally turned toward the royal children, especially Charlotte. She seemed oblivious to the attention, simply enjoying the moment with her family. But the cameras were not. They caught every glance, every smile, every gesture. It was clear that Charlotte, with her natural charm, was beginning to capture the hearts of those around her. This wasn't just another royal appearance. It was a moment in time that felt special, one where the world was beginning to take notice of the young princess and her bright future within the royal family. With every step, every gesture, and every smile, Princess Charlotte was growing into her role in the public eye. She wasn't just the youngest member of the family anymore. She was becoming a star in her own right, one who would no doubt continue to captivate the world for years to come. The service was not just a family tradition. It was a moment that would mark the beginning of something greater for Princess Charlotte, one where the world would be watching her every move. The royal convoy began its slow journey towards Sandringham, the grand estate that had been the royal family's Christmas destination for generations. The long, elegant vehicles moved smoothly along the winding driveway, flanked by tall trees that seemed to stand as silent sentinels, watching over the family's arrival. It was a picturesque scene, the beauty of the winter morning adding to the grandeur of the occasion. Snow had fallen lightly during the night, and the landscape was covered in a blanket of white, as if the world had paused to greet the royal family. Princess Charlotte, along with her family, was about to take part in one of the most anticipated events of the year. Though Christmas was a time for family and tradition, it was also a time for public appearances, and the royal family was always under the watchful eye of the world. As the family's convoy approached the church, the media, who had been waiting for hours in the cold, quickly sprang into action. Cameras clicked rapidly, capturing the moment as the family stepped out of their cars. There was something special about this year, something in the air that made the moment feel different. Princess Charlotte was growing up fast. At just 7 years old, she had already shown a natural ease in front of the camera, and her infectious smile was beginning to catch the attention of not just the public, but also the media. Her family, her parents, Prince William and Kate, had been in the spotlight their entire lives, and while they were always gracious and composed, this year it was Charlotte who seemed to steal the focus. The family made their way to the church, walking together as a unit, a perfect picture of royal harmony. Charlotte, holding her mother's hand, walked with a grace that belied her young age. She had always been known for her sweetness, her bright eyes that sparkled with curiosity and wonder, but this year there was something different about her. She walked with confidence, her tiny footsteps matching the rhythm of her family's. The public's eyes were drawn to the royal children. Prince George, the eldest, walked just ahead, tall for his age, his posture as poised as his parents'. Behind him, little Prince Louis trailed with his usual burst of energy, his tiny legs moving quickly as he tried to keep up with the others. But it was Charlotte who truly caught the attention of the crowd. It wasn't just her outfit, although it was lovely, a beautiful dress paired with a warm coat and boots that matched the season's festive tones. It wasn't even the fact that she was part of the royal family. It was the way she carried herself, her natural charm, the way she seemed to radiate joy as she walked through the crowd. As the family moved toward the church, the cameras captured their every step. The royal family had long been accustomed to the flashes and the constant scrutiny. Yet, there was something about this year's Christmas service that felt different. Perhaps it was the sight of Princess Charlotte walking proudly with her parents, or the way she glanced around with wide eyes, taking in the crowd, the cameras, the flashing lights. It was as though, at that very moment, Charlotte was beginning to understand her place in the world, a world that seemed so grand, yet so full of possibility. Despite the hustle and bustle of the royal family's arrival, there was a sense of calm that seemed to surround them. Their movements were measured, deliberate, and as always, they appeared utterly at ease. Prince William and Kate smiled at the well-wishers who had gathered outside the church. There was always a sense of warmth in their gestures, an understanding that the public, who watched them so closely, were also part of their extended family. The royals understood the importance of their role, and they carried it with grace and humility, something that was often remarked upon by the public and the media. But it was clear that the attention on this day was not just reserved for the older members of the royal family. Princess Charlotte was becoming a figure all her own. She was not merely the youngest member of the royal family. She was starting to show signs of something more. As she moved through the crowd with her parents, she flashed a bright smile, waving to the well-wishers, her excitement unmistakable. The crowd responded with cheers, a wave of affection that followed her every move. As the family entered the church, the service began. The beautiful old building, with its tall, stained-glass windows and grand wooden pews, filled with people, their voices rising in song as they celebrated the holiday season. The royal family took their seats in the front row, and Charlotte, now settled beside her parents, seemed to take in her surroundings. She sat quietly for a moment, looking around at the congregation, the church decorations, and the quiet reverence of the people gathered for the service. But it wasn't long before her natural curiosity got the better of her. While her parents sat still and focused on the service, Charlotte began to look around more intently. Her eyes darted to the windows, to the Christmas decorations, and to the other children sitting nearby. She was constantly in motion, shifting slightly in her seat, smiling at the people around her. There was a playful energy in her that couldn't be ignored. She wasn't simply a child attending a royal event. She was a child, full of wonder, enjoying the moment in her own way. Occasionally, she would whisper something to her mother or father, her voice barely audible, yet full of excitement. Her small hands would move, perhaps pointing to something she found interesting, or simply fidgeting as children often do. There was a youthful energy in Charlotte's presence that stood out in the formality of the service. While the service continued, many in the congregation couldn't help but glance in Charlotte's direction. It wasn't as though she was causing a scene, but her natural charm was so captivating that it was hard to ignore. She smiled at the people around her, and though her family remained composed, Charlotte's playful energy was hard to contain. The press caught every little movement, every little gesture, and for a brief moment, the cameras seemed to forget the adults in the room. It wasn't just her smile. It was her ability to be herself in a world full of rules and expectations. As the service continued, Charlotte's role in the family's public appearance became even more apparent. It was clear that she wasn't just another young royal. She was someone who could capture the attention of an entire room with just a glance, a gesture, or a smile. She had something that was impossible to fake, an authentic presence that was both charming and endearing. Even in the formal setting of a royal service, Charlotte had a way of making the event feel more personal, more relatable, and more joyous. The world watched as the royal family went about their Christmas service, with the cameras capturing every moment. But it was Princess Charlotte, the youngest member of the family, who stole the show. The warmth in her smile, the twinkle in her eye, and the joy she exuded as she walked beside her parents made it impossible to look away. For the first time, people were seeing not just a princess, but a young girl who was beginning to take her place in the royal spotlight. As the service continued, the atmosphere in the church grew more serene, filled with the soft sound of hymns and the quiet reverence that Christmas services often bring. The royal family, seated at the front of the congregation, appeared calm and composed, as was to be expected. Their presence was both regal and humble, a blend of tradition and grace. Prince William and Kate, sitting at the center, shared a quiet exchange, and the older children, Prince George and Prince Louis, were sitting patiently beside them. But it was Princess Charlotte, seated next to her mother, who would soon draw the focus of everyone in the room. For most of the service, Charlotte had been behaving like any other child her age, curious, playful, and full of energy. She glanced around the church, her eyes catching the beautiful decorations, the flickering candlelight, and the other children around her. Though she was certainly aware of the grandeur of the setting, she wasn't the type to be awed into silence. Instead, she appeared fascinated by the world around her, absorbing the details with a natural sense of wonder. Her small hands clasped in her lap, she shifted in her seat from time to time, eager to look at what was happening all around her. But it wasn't long before something unexpected happened, something that would shift all eyes toward Charlotte and away from the more serious atmosphere of the service. As the choir began to sing a particularly moving hymn, Charlotte, still full of curiosity, noticed something across the aisle. It could have been a glint of light from one of the church's stained-glass windows, or perhaps she caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. Whatever it was, her attention snapped toward it, and in that moment she couldn't contain her excitement. She let out a little giggle, a sound so pure and unexpected that it rippled through the otherwise quiet room. Her giggle wasn't loud or disruptive, but in the stillness of the church, it felt like a burst of joy in an otherwise somber setting. The sound carried, and for a split second, the focus shifted away from the choir and the formal proceedings. People turned their heads to see what had caused the disturbance. Charlotte's giggle had drawn attention, but it wasn't just the sound, it was the way her smile lit up her face. It was as if she had found something in the church that brought her immense joy, and that joy was infectious. Her mother, Kate, gently placed her hand on Charlotte's knee, giving her a quiet, understanding look. It was clear that Kate was accustomed to her children's natural energy, and she didn't scold Charlotte for her outburst. Instead, she smiled softly, knowing that the moment would pass. But the cameras, hidden behind the aisles, had already captured Charlotte's playful moment, and within moments, the images of her beaming face were flashing across screens worldwide. The rest of the family, of course, continued their participation in the service, with their calm demeanor reflecting the royal tradition. Yet, as much as the royal family worked to maintain an air of composure, it was Charlotte who seemed to break through the formality with her charm. She had done nothing more than giggle, and yet in that brief moment, she had managed to steal the spotlight. For a few seconds, the royal family's public image was put on hold, replaced by the infectious joy of a young child whose innocence and curiosity were impossible to ignore. It wasn't that the royal family didn't deserve the attention. They were, after all, the focus of the event. But Charlotte's spontaneous giggle reminded everyone in the room of something much more human than the royal image. The joy and wonder of a child who, despite being in one of the most formal settings in the world, could still let her natural curiosity and happiness shine through. For the media, this moment was pure gold. Cameras had already caught the attention of Charlotte, and the footage quickly circulated online. Within minutes, social media platforms were buzzing with photos and videos of her joyful expression. The hashtag Charlotte Steals the Spotlight began trending, with people from all over the world commenting on her charm. The press marveled at how Charlotte, so young, could already command such attention with a simple, genuine smile. There was something captivating about her that transcended her royal status. She was simply a little girl who was full of life, and that was something everyone could relate to. But it wasn't just the media that noticed Charlotte. As the service went on, the other members of the congregation could be seen quietly glancing toward her. Some smiled at her innocence, others chuckled at her unrestrained joy. Charlotte, without even trying, had become the star of the service. It was as if, in that brief moment, she had reminded everyone in the church that there was something special about the way a child could see the world, without pretension, without the weight of expectations. Her joy was unfiltered and pure, and it was this quality that seemed to captivate everyone around her. As the hymn came to an end, Charlotte settled back into her seat. The excitement of the moment had passed, but the ripple effect of her joy lingered in the air. For those who were watching her, it was clear that this was a side of Princess Charlotte that people would come to know better in the years to come. She was growing into a young girl who was not only adorable but also full of personality, a little royal who could charm the world with just a smile. But there was more to Charlotte than just her ability to capture attention. This unexpected moment, where her playful nature broke through the formality of the Christmas service, showed that she had the kind of charm that didn't need to be forced. Unlike many children in the spotlight, Charlotte didn't seem to be aware of the cameras. She wasn't performing, she was simply being herself. And it was this authenticity, this realness, that made her so relatable. It was a quality that would only become more apparent as she grew older and took on a larger role in the royal family. For now, though, the world had just caught a glimpse of the little princess's magic. Her ability to steal the spotlight wasn't just about the attention. She had something more, a natural grace and joy that would leave a lasting impression wherever she went. And as the service continued, the press and the public would remember that it wasn't just a royal event. They would remember the joyful, infectious moment that belonged solely to Princess Charlotte. As the Christmas service concluded and the royal family made their way out of the church, the media frenzy began. It was an annual tradition for the royal family to attend the Christmas service at Sandringham, but this year was different. While the royal family had attended many such events in the past, it was Princess Charlotte who had unexpectedly captured the public's imagination. The moment she had stolen the spotlight with her playful giggle had not gone unnoticed, and now the world was eager to see more of this young princess whose charm had transcended her royal status. As the family walked out of the church, the cameras flashed rapidly, capturing every move, every expression, and every tiny detail. The royal family, ever the picture of grace, continued their stroll without skipping a beat. But amid the sea of reporters and photographers, it was clear that their attention had shifted. The focus was now on Princess Charlotte. In the days that followed the Christmas service, the media's reaction was overwhelming. Newspapers, magazines, and online platforms were filled with headlines praising Charlotte's natural charm. Her spontaneous moment during the service had made headlines around the world. It wasn't just her giggle that had caught everyone's attention. It was the way she carried herself with such grace and confidence despite her young age. For many, it was a refreshing change from the often stiff, formal appearances of royal children. News outlets quickly picked up on the viral moment, sharing images of Charlotte's wide-eyed wonder and infectious smile. In an age where the public often feels disconnected from the royal family, Charlotte's genuine joy had struck a chord with people everywhere. She wasn't trying to steal the spotlight. She wasn't even aware of the attention she was drawing. She was simply being herself, a young girl experiencing the world with a sense of innocence and wonder that was impossible to ignore. Social media platforms were abuzz with posts and comments from fans and royal watchers alike. Charlotte Steals the Spotlight became a trending hashtag, and photos of her began circulating in various forms, some showing her giggling, others capturing her looking curiously at her surroundings. It wasn't just her actions that captivated the audience. It was her natural, unguarded personality. People were drawn to the authenticity she exuded, something that was rare in the polished world of royalty. For many, Charlotte's unexpected moment of joy reminded them of the simpler pleasures of life. Her innocence and the ease with which she had brought light to the room were qualities that resonated with both the young and the old. Some saw in her the carefree joy of childhood, a time when everything seemed new and exciting. Others admired how effortlessly she had brightened the atmosphere of the royal event, injecting a sense of playfulness into an otherwise formal occasion. The public's reaction was full of admiration for Princess Charlotte's charm. The media quickly coined her as the star of the Christmas service, a title she had unknowingly earned. Her playful spirit and natural ease had become the highlight of the event. As people watched the footage of her at the service, they were reminded of how a simple, genuine moment could capture the heart of the public. Charlotte had not tried to be the center of attention. She had simply been herself, and that was more than enough. Many royal commentators noted how this moment marked a new chapter in Charlotte's public life. She was no longer just the youngest member of the royal family. She was beginning to emerge as a figure in her own right. Her charisma had made her a favorite among royal watchers, and many people began to speculate about what the future held for her. Would she become a prominent figure in royal engagements as she grew older? Would her playful nature and natural charm continue to shine through in the years to come? Some pundits even began comparing Charlotte to other young royals who had captured the public's heart. They noted that while her older brother, Prince George, had long been in the spotlight, it was Charlotte's ease in front of the camera and her unassuming personality that made her stand out in a new way. Charlotte's charm was different. It wasn't crafted or rehearsed. It was natural. She had an effortless way of connecting with people, and that made her more relatable than any carefully orchestrated appearance could. The media also acknowledged how Charlotte's behavior had been in stark contrast to the often serious nature of royal duties. Royal children were typically expected to be on their best behavior, polite, composed, and reserved. But Charlotte's giggle, her moment of joy, and her curiosity had reminded the world that even within the formality of the royal family, there was room for lightheartedness and playfulness. It was a reminder that royalty, at its core, was about family and human connection. Even the older members of the royal family, while maintaining their usual grace, couldn't help but smile at Charlotte's shining moment. Prince William and Kate, always supportive of their children's individuality, were undoubtedly proud of their daughter's ability to brighten a room without even trying. For them, it was just another example of how their children, though growing up in the royal spotlight, were still very much children at heart. Charlotte's moment of joy was a reminder to everyone that, despite the grandeur of royal life, family came first, and the simple joys of being together were the most important thing of all. As the media continued to discuss Charlotte's moment at the service, it became clear that this was just the beginning of her public journey. People began to pay more attention to the youngest member of the royal family, eager to see what she would do next. The public's interest in Charlotte only seemed to grow, and royal watchers looked forward to seeing how she would evolve in the coming years. But for now, the attention on Charlotte was a beautiful reflection of her natural ability to capture hearts. She had become a beacon of joy and light, and in a world where news cycles often focused on negativity and drama, her genuine moment of happiness had been a breath of fresh air. As the media continued to celebrate Charlotte's charm, it was clear that she had made a lasting impression, one that would not be forgotten anytime soon. Her infectious smile, her unfiltered joy, and her ability to light up a room without even trying had given the world a glimpse of the royal family's future. And as the headlines continued to praise Princess Charlotte for stealing the spotlight, there was no doubt that she had carved out a place for herself in the hearts of millions. She wasn't just a royal figure. She was a little girl whose natural charm had captured the world's attention, and that, in itself, was a moment worth remembering. As the days passed following the royal family's Christmas service, the memory of Princess Charlotte's unexpected moment continued to linger in the hearts and minds of the public. It wasn't just a fleeting news story or a viral moment. It had become something more, something that left a lasting impression on those who had witnessed it. The way Charlotte had so effortlessly captured the spotlight with her natural charm had resonated deeply with people. It was a reminder of the innocence and joy of childhood, and how even in the most formal settings, a simple smile or giggle could make everything feel brighter. For many, Charlotte's moment wasn't just about her giggle during the service. It was about the way she brought warmth and light to a world that sometimes seemed too focused on the serious and the formal. In a world where every move of the royal family was scrutinized, Charlotte had shown that there was room for spontaneity and joy, even in the most controlled environments. Her authenticity had been captivating, and it was clear that this was just the beginning of her journey as a public figure. As the royal family continued with their duties throughout the year, it became evident that Princess Charlotte was slowly growing into her role. The media, which had previously focused mainly on her older brother, Prince George, began to pay more attention to her. She was still young, but it was clear that she had a presence that was unique to her. In interviews and public appearances, people began to see more of Charlotte's personality, a mix of confidence, sweetness, and the kind of charm that could melt anyone's heart. Over time, the public became more fascinated with Charlotte. It wasn't just about her being the daughter of Prince William and Kate Middleton, though that undoubtedly brought her attention. It was about the way she interacted with the world. She wasn't simply going through the motions of royal life. She was, in her own way, making a mark, carving out a space for herself in a way that felt both natural and effortless. Her ability to connect with people, to bring joy and light to any room, was a gift, and it was something that could not be ignored. As Charlotte grew older, her moments of charm and lightheartedness became more frequent. She continued to attend royal engagements with her family, and each time she did, she captured the attention of the public in new ways. Her giggle at the Christmas service had been a turning point, a moment that had shown the world that Charlotte wasn't just another royal child. She was a young girl with a future ahead of her, one that would surely be filled with many more moments that would endear her to the public. But it wasn't just the media and the public who were paying attention to Charlotte's growing presence. Her family, too, recognized the special qualities that she brought to the table. Prince William and Kate had always been proud of their children, but Charlotte's natural ability to captivate an audience was something that seemed to surprise even them. They knew their daughter had something special, something that would serve her well in the future. And as Charlotte continued to grow, they knew that she would eventually take on more public responsibilities, just like her brother George and the rest of the royal family. For now, though, Charlotte remained a beloved figure, one who brought joy not only to her family, but to everyone who had the privilege of seeing her in action. The royal family, with all their formality and tradition, was not without its moments of genuine emotion and connection. Charlotte's ability to bring those moments to the forefront was something that would forever be remembered. She had shown the world that the royal family wasn't just a group of dignified individuals. They were a family, full of warmth, laughter, and love. The attention Charlotte had received during the Christmas service was a reflection of something much deeper than a simple viral moment. It was a reflection of the world's growing affection for the young princess. People were drawn to her innocence, her authenticity, and the way she seemed to bring joy to everyone around her. In a way, Charlotte had become the face of a new era for the royal family, one where the younger generation would have the chance to carve their own paths and define their own roles. It wasn't just about adhering to tradition. It was about embracing the uniqueness of each individual, and Charlotte's presence was a perfect example of that. As the years went on, Charlotte's role within the royal family would likely evolve. She would take on more public duties, attend more engagements, and continue to grow into her own as a young royal. But the moment she had stolen the spotlight at the Christmas service would always be remembered as the beginning of something special. It was a moment that reminded people of the power of a smile, the warmth of a laugh, and the joy that comes from simply being yourself. Charlotte's presence would continue to shape the royal family in subtle but significant ways. The world had witnessed her ability to connect with people, to brighten the mood, and to create moments of genuine happiness. And as she grew older, it was clear that the world would continue to watch her closely, eager to see what other moments of joy she would bring. The legacy of her Christmas service moment wasn't just about her stealing the spotlight. It was about her ability to remind people of the simple pleasures of life, the importance of family, and the power of authenticity. Charlotte had captured the world's heart not because she had tried to, but because she had simply been herself. And in doing so, she had shown that the royal family was more than just an institution. It was a family full of warmth, love, and a little bit of magic. As the years passed, Princess Charlotte would no doubt have many more opportunities to shine. But no matter how much she grew or how much her role changed, that moment at the Christmas service would always be remembered. It had been a small moment in time, but one that had left a lasting impact on the world. Princess Charlotte had stolen the spotlight that day, but in doing so, she had also captured something much bigger: the hearts of millions of people around the world who had seen in her not just a royal figure, but a young girl with a bright future ahead of her.